Welcome. This is yours truly, DJ Roy from Irie Jam Radio. I'm here with the attorney, Gregory Spektor, from the law offices of Gregory Spektor and Associates. And we're trying to come up with easier ways to furnish you with information about what you need to do in case you get into an accident. So many ways you can get into an accident. You can get into a car accident. You can get into an accident on a construction site. You can be on somebody's property and slip and fall. There are many ways for you to get into an accident, but there's only really one way for you to get compensated for your accident, is bringing a lawsuit and having the right attorneys defend you in that lawsuit. So today, I decided to bring in the big man himself to speak to our watchers now, because we usually do this on radio,
right,
but now we're doing a podcast. So welcome, Gregory, and let's talk about slip and fall. People that get injured in supermarkets, people that get injured on people's properties. And I would presume that those are the hard cases to prove, because sometimes there's no cameras around, sometimes there are no witnesses around. What should one do?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, DJ Roy. You're absolutely right. These are a little bit more difficult cases to prosecute. And I do want to correct you when you said that we're here to defend you in these lawsuits. We don't defend, we prosecute.
Okay.
We're the plaintiffs. We attack.
Okay.
And yes, there are many layers of things to consider when we deal with trip and fall, slip and fall, construction site accidents. There usually are trip and fall and slip and fall. They go under one umbrella. They're called premises liability accidents. And you're absolutely right. They're a lot more difficult to prosecute. For example, when you deal with car accidents, the 99.9% of the time, police comes to the scene of the accident. They put together an accident report.
Right.
They record it. They send it up to Albany. Then you can create an MV-104 report from each driver. So there's a lot more record.
Okay.
All right. Now with premises liability, that's not so. Most of the times it's not so. Let's say it's a trip and fall accident and someone is walking on the sidewalk. They fell, they broke a leg, the next thing they know, they're in the ambulance. Hopefully somebody noticed them, or if they were lucky enough to have a cell phone next to them,
Right.
they're calling 911. Ambulance comes, takes them to the hospital. That's about it. However, as we said many times before, not having a report, even in a car accident, and more so in the premises liability accidents, in no way precludes you from prosecuting that claim.
Okay.
And why it's important to have a professional like our firm to do this on your behalf is because there are very important steps to take. A lot of these steps are very time sensitive.
Okay.
Especially when you deal with trip and fall, slip and fall. You most likely will have as one of the defendants New York City, or one of the municipal agencies like Department of Transportation, Department of Sanitation. And when you're dealing with them, there is a special code in the state of New York that provisions as to how to deal with municipalities. And time is of the essence there. You have to make a notice of claim within 90 days. You have to present your client for what's called a 50H hearing for the New York City attorney to start talking to you before we even start an action. Then the statute of limitation from regular personal injury case, where it's 3 years, goes to only a year and 3 months. Wow. So things are a lot more stringent. Things are a little more difficult, but in no way it should deter you from seeking to recover whatever you deserve to recover. And we're here for you. We're here for you. We're here for you to squeeze every penny that you're entitled to compensate you for your injuries. And we'll make sure that we'll get all the defendants that are responsible for that defect or for that slippery condition that made you fall. And if we need to, we'll hire experts to go ahead and research that place. We'll hire engineers to see whether or not those stones should have been aligned the way they were aligned, and whether that not compliance with whatever code regulates it was the result of your injury. We will spend that money whether or not the case will go forward or not. These are usually a lot more expensive cases to prosecute, so you definitely want to be dealing with a firm with resources, with knowledge, experience, and reputation.
Wow,
and that is who?
Gregory Spektor and Associates. And by the way, that number is 888-797-7735, 888-797-7735, 888-797-7735. Now, you know, what happens if, let's say, for argument's sake, I slipped and fell
Right,
in the subway,
right,
but, you know, me being a macho person,
right.
figured I'd just twist my ankle, but then I get home, my ankle swells up. I'll go to the doctor, I'll go to the hospital, and it's fractured.
Right.
Do I still have a case? Can I still call you?
Well, yes. The simple answer is absolutely yes. As a word of advice from an attorney, try not to be that macho man, you know, especially when the pain is there already right away. From my experience, it doesn't really get better. It usually gets worse, especially when the shock will wear off, when all the emotions will subside, and that's when the pain hits. But absolutely, you still have the case. You just need to make sure when you go to the hospital and you talk to the doctor and they ask you how the accident happened, try to present the circumstances of how it happened as close to, you know, to revolve around where it happened as possible. Because what I said earlier, since there is no police report, a lot of times hospital records or EMS records, they play a very important role. As a matter of fact, remember what I told you about municipalities having an option to do what's called a 50H hearing. I will not produce my client to a 50H hearing until we obtain all the hospital records, until we obtain the EMS records from the ambulance, to make sure that whatever the client will claim will be recorded there. Because the last thing you want is to have this discrepancy right away. You know, because they will be all happy about that. They're living for this. They're looking for something like that, where you, let's say, you'll say that, yes, I lost consciousness for about 10, 15 seconds, and sometimes you feel that way, but when you were in a hospital, you didn't say that. Well, we're gonna stick with what's in the hospital record, because at that early stage of the case, when you're prosecuting case from the beginning, you don't want to have discrepancies between the testimony and between the record.
All right. The number again, 888-797-7735. The law offices of Gregory Spektor and Associates, right here in Queens, 1 Cross Island Plaza, 888-797-7735. That is the number to call. How important is it for one to attend or go to physical therapy after the injuries?
Well, from the standpoint of you know, the case, it's extremely important. But what's more important than that is your health. You have to agree with me. Whatever compensation there will be, right? Your health and your life is a lot more important than any of that. So don't be a hero. Stick with, you know, first of all, definitely seek medical help as soon as you can, and then stick with whatever prescription they give you. And if they tell you to go for physical therapy 3-4 times a week, do yourself a favor and do that. You know, as far as the case goes, of course, the more records of your treatment we have, the easier it is to prosecute the case, the easier it is to prove the pain and suffering that you were going through when we ask the jury to award the money. And this is the way I treat every case. I treat every case as if it goes to trial. Statistically, you know, 99.9% of the cases, they settle pre-litigation. Why? You know, because when you have your case ready, when you're ready for the worst and hope for the best, that's the better way to approach it. You know, when you have everything lined out the way it's supposed to be, the defense knows it. They know all the submissions we present to court, and of course they know which cases to take chances with and which cases to not. And I believe we present our cases on par. And you know the outcome. You saw our multi-million-dollar verdicts. You saw our clients walking out of our office with
Yes.
big smiles on their faces, with big checks in their pocket, and that's what makes us happy.
All right. Here's the number again, 888-797-7735, the law offices of Gregory Spektor and Associates. If you're injured and you don't know what to do, know this number because it's the only number you're going to need, 888-797-7735. Gregory, always a pleasure to have you, man.
Thank you, DJ Roy. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you had me, and I hope we're going to continue this.
We shall continue because, like I said, this is a new way to get to our listeners that like to watch. Because now we're living in a day and age where video is as important as the audio.
Right.
So I'm really glad that we're doing this podcast to help our listeners and now to help our watchers.
Wonderful. Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The law offices of Gregory Spektor and Associates, like I said, jot the number down. You might not need it today, you might not need it tomorrow, but when you do need it, you know where to go. 888-797-7735. Gregory Spektor and Associates.
Take care. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.